sticker for me. I'm technically not allowed to be here.
Okay.
Look at this. I found them.
You found him? There you go. There's your lion.
I got it. Thank you so much.
I don't know. Chris, you can roll the audio. Hey, Chris Cook. Chris Cook. You guys have to give the sound go louder. Can the sound go louder? Pelicoin. I want Pelicoin.
They get 25% each development. So that leaves zero. That leaves zero for the louder. Yeah.
Testing 4 5. Want to play the intro? Let's do the intro. Quiet please. Quiet please.
Sing along.
Sing along, please.
Woo!
Okay. Roll intro. Roll camera. Yeah. Chris is so professional. Play that thing.
Time for
Start dancing, guys.
There's no audio. Where's the audio? Audio. Sing along, relax. You're the worst cult ever. Come up here and sing. Best thing to do is sing into the clap would even end. Okay. Bye. That's the end of the episode. Great episode, guys. Yeah, we're not gonna dance. So
The badger dance?
the badger dance, no? Badger. No thanks. We're not that kind of people. Okay. So let's start off with the introductions. We were supposed to have Adam Beck introduce us, but he bailed. Do we have someone else introducing us? Maybe Bruce. Maybe Bruce. I don't know. Maybe.
Woo! These guys are awesome. Right? There's more of a signal to noise in this ratio in this room than the whole rest of the place out there. This is the place to be. This is where the technology is. Anybody come here for some technology? Yeah. These guys know about technology. Yeah. Code, C++, consensus mechanism, security, all that stuff. Let's hear it for the guys. Woo! Woo!
So let's start off with the impressions that you had about consensus so far. So For me, it was the second year, and I thought last year was bad, and this year it's like a whole new level of scamminess, in my opinion. Well, if you go to the second floor here, they're all booths, and like 90% of the companies or like I never heard, all ICOs. I never heard of most of them.
Except for that super dodgy company, they had the biggest booth.
Yeah, the biggest booth. Dash also had a very big booth actually.
They didn't even have an ICO.
Yeah, what's wrong with them? But they have masternodes.
Yeah,
that's nice. I also didn't go to many talks here. I'm just here to meet everyone and to see all old friends and new friends and just meet interesting people. And actually, from the most interesting people were here in the Blockstream room. I did go to the talk on privacy. That was actually interesting. Ricardo.
I crashed the panel.
Ricardo wasn't supposed to be on there.
Supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to be there. It's okay. No, in fact, the panel's attendees were so private that they didn't know about me until the end. That's a good concept. Yeah. We're gonna try that again next year. Except I want my ticket refunded. Yeah.
You should ask for it.
I should.
Yeah.
And actually, the panel I did on social media was also fun with Meltem and Niraj. Thanks, Paul. So that's my impression. So,
I literally have not left this room for 2 days. No, I went back to sleep, but I've been here most of the time because we had demos yesterday. We were demoing Liquid Network, Lightning Network, Blockstream Satellite, and then we had the ICE data feed. And then today we're doing talks all day, so I'm just looking forward to the Dragon Energy Party. I heard about Jimmy Song's thing. That was awesome. He's actually auditioning to be the 5th Magical Crypto Friend. So we had to tell him to like stir up some shit. And he did his, so we'll see.
You have to reach like a certain level of trolliness before you're allowed in.
Yeah.
He wants to be a cow.
Yeah. We'll
With
talk
a
about that.
cowboy hat, so we'll see.
We have to negotiate with his agent.
Yeah, his agent's kind of demonic. Plus his writer. He's all like, I only want blue M&Ms. What's up with that?
Yeah. So my overall take is very limited, but it's good to see everyone that's here and everyone that came up and said hello. So it's good.
Yeah, so I did my talk. I watched your talk. And that was about it. And walked around. It's hard for me to walk around.
You know that you can watch us live. Right? You
It's like real
Who's
inception.
watching us?
I'm watching it. Yeah, I was just checking if it actually works. It works.
Yeah, this year is pretty crazy. I mean, yeah, walking around all these ICOs, it's pretty crazy. I guess that's kind of expected.
Yeah, I think like last year was pretty bad. This year's ridiculous. It's just suits and scammers. Okay, so suit scammers and Samsung. But I also sort of feel like and I know that this year they've had 8,000 attendees, but I feel like this year was really poorly organized compared to last year.
They're like really squeezing the money out of it.
It was, well, I don't know if it was particularly oversold. Apparently the hotel capacity for something like this is like 12,000 people. But I mean, to spend, I went and got my pass on Sunday, but anyone who went on Monday stood in line for like an hour and a half, which is nuts.
On the first day, we barely could get up, and we were like, we're an exhibitor.
Yeah.
We barely get upstairs.
No, that's nuts.
And for lunch, they told everyone to finish your food and leave. Go out here and sit down. Like stop talking. Just finish your food and leave.
Did you say to them, do you know who I am? You should have.
He did, and they said no.
You see, it just shows you, suits and scammers. They don't even know who he is.
Well, in my opinion, the venue is way too small for it. If you try to like go from one room to another, it's almost impossible. So, and I also heard like the prices for the booths and stuff like that, and it's really crazy.
Yeah.
They definitely made a lot of money.
Yeah.
This room is very expensive, just so you appreciate it.
How much was it?
I think it's like 20K.
Yeah. Well, our internet service to stream this episode is terribly expensive.
It's really expensive.
So please donate all of your Bitcoin cash to us.
Bcash?
Whichever.
Yeah. Okay, so we should probably stop to what's really on the agenda now. Recently there has been more talk in Japan about regulators trying to crack down on anonymous cryptocurrencies. We talked about it briefly yesterday with Ricardo. So there was one exchange that already listed Monero. Coincheck did. But what do you think about it? Do you expect more countries or more regulators saying like you can no longer accept Monero or other super anonymous cryptocurrencies like Dash and
And how much did you pay for that listing?
So yeah, the Monero Enterprise Alliance covered it. All of their money.
All right.
I think it's hard to say. I suspect that it might happen more and more, but I don't think it's going to. I think it's mostly futile, right? You've got decentralized exchanges like BitSquare, Bisq, and you've got other you've got other decentralized exchanges like Hodl and so on that are all like up and coming or working. And so like, what good does it do them to crack down? Because like people are just going to ship in and out using that anyway. So
True. But I think there's also a limited list of currencies they can list right now. I think there's like 13 things that they can put out, and that's it until more regulation comes out.
It sort of reminds me of when Apple did the like hallowed list of cryptocurrencies that they allowed, and it was whatever, it was like 4 or 5 cryptos, and that was it. And then they eventually had to sort of pull back on that and be like, okay, anyone can go and create one.
Well, another thing that recently came up, we did last show like 1.5 months ago. Normally we try to do it every month, but yeah, because now we're planning to do it here at Consensus, it's been a while. So since then, a lot of old people have been saying bad things about Bitcoin. More specifically, like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, old rich people, old money. They compare it to red poison.
Red poison's scary.
Baby brains.
Trading.
Yeah, it's baby brains.
Baby brains.
So we're seeing way more of that now. But I guess in a way it's good. That means that we're on their radar.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you can't really stop people from saying stuff, right? And I don't think that this is an area that would particularly interest somebody who's an old school banker who's already made their money, or even an old school technologist who's already made their money. It's an area where understanding it is hard, and the people who are building cool stuff are few and far between. And it's predominantly filled with charlatans and scammers. So, like, if you're external and you're the incumbent, you might get ousted. But you're also looking at this as like comparing it to your space, which is probably highly regulated and relatively clean. Relatively, I mean, what can you say? You look at it like, well, this is just a bunch of scammers.
Well, the way I see it is that they're just funding Bitcoin to pump their bags. Their bags are fiat, right? So they have their motivations.
That's true.
It's strange that they would come out with these like really ugly currencies for Bitcoin, which is.
But I mean, it's a battle, right? It's a war.
Yes.
We're fighting a war, and they don't want to let go. They're going to hold on with like, tooth and nail. They're going to fight for it, and they're going to use ugly terms. That's the first way they fight, is by calling us scammers.
Yes, that's
baby.
So very good.
Blockchain is war.
Yeah, that's good actually. In Korea, you were on the panel with Roger Ver.
Yeah.
And there he said some things about killing babies. That Bitcoin Core is killing babies.
Yeah.
And now you have your own GIF. That's actually pretty cool.
So the software repository is killing babies?
Yeah. And Alex Morpos contributes to that repository.
Baby killer right here.
Right there, front and center.
No, but
do you have no shame?
But it's really crazy that they would go that far by like talking about killing babies and.
Is it
Is it not?
I don't know. It seems normal.
Okay.
Killing babies is normal.
No.
Okay, just
these weird terms and things.
Well, yeah, he tries to make it more political. It's like when he did those strange Me Too tweets.
That was just awkward.
Either he doesn't know, or he's, I don't know.
He's tagging his.
But actually,
some people nothing to do with Me Too.
Some people actually commented that you weren't like pushing back strong enough that you just let it go over you without like calling them out on it.
Yeah. Well, first off, the audience there is very different, right, than the audience here. It's mostly Koreans, and I don't think English is everyone's first language. I don't think everyone knows the full history of the drama. So I thought it's better just to try to keep it more dry, more technical, and not really engage him. Because first of all, you can't really debate someone's emotions, right? If Bruce Fenton says he's angry, at your shirt being too green, I can't really talk about that. Like, yeah, okay, maybe it's green. But in general, I think it doesn't really help. It's better just to let them talk and let them say the cool stuff.
Yeah, for the record, we're not trying to kill babies, we're trying to brainwash babies. So
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
otherwise we
Yes,
wouldn't have such a
Otherwise, we wouldn't have our own cult.
yeah, exactly. You should see like the thousands of people standing behind the camera. It's crazy.
Lots of babies.
For the sacrifice later.
But if you didn't like my performance at Economy, you're welcome to do it yourself.
No, I suck at public speaking. I mean, this is fine because I'm with you guys and I'm on panel. I'm not doing it by myself, but yeah, I'm not really good public speaker at all.
But you both wear glasses, so you could totally pull it off.
We're almost identical.
You almost, yeah, you could be twins.
So we're
Well, I thought
twins.
we're-
They're twins. Every time when I like last time we did something about Samsung, I said, "Poor Charlie."
I think the guy was joking, man.
No, I think it's serious.
I think it's serious.
I think it's serious. We
I'm
shouldn't sit next to
Charlie,
each
by the
other.
way. Just to be clear.
Or are we?
We should switch shirts and people.
Yeah. That's the next episode.
Yeah.
So one thing that also happened recently was with Verge. Like they asked for a lot of donations, like around $2 million worth of donations, I believe, because they had a secret project, secret partnership that they didn't want disclosed. So they just asked everyone to donate, and it ended up being Pornhub. So they got added on Pornhub, and I don't know anyone who actually pays for porn. I don't know. Ricardo, I don't.
Are you asking me if I pay for porn or if I know anyone who does?
Both.
No, I don't
He has a friend.
He
That does not.
uses Monero, so no one does.
So yeah. So Verge,
Isn't that really bad to use something traceable to pay for your porn?
yeah, because Verge is not anonymous at all. Actually,
That should be your partnership.
not many people know this. Actually.
How anonymous is Verge?
Well, it's the fork of Bitcoin. So it's as anonymous as Bitcoin.
Okay.
I mean, like literally, there's nothing that they've done to prevent blockchain analysis. What they have done is they've plugged I2P and Tor into it. But for a long time, that was non-default. And so, as with all non-default privacy, almost no one was using the private stuff. But, IP obfuscation is largely useless. I mean, there are people who make a very coherent argument that even Monero's privacy is largely useless because the minute you hit an exchange, it's defeated entirely. So how much more so is it defeated if you're using something traceable like Verge?
And actually, the old name for Verge was Dogecoin Dark, if I believe. I mean, come on.
And
Where did you buy
it wasn't even a fork of Dogecoin, right?
I don't
No,
remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think it was.
Wasn't that it was a Bryce Wiener project or something? So you know it's legit.
Bryce Wiener, in case you don't know, he had like 100 scam coins back in 2014, 2015. And he's now actively promoting Bcash. So yeah, that fits.
Well, on the other hand, I think porn is actually a pretty good use case for cryptocurrency. For private cryptocurrency. I mean, assuming you pay for porn.
Yeah, so
people, you wouldn't want to use a credit card.
why?
Because then it's straight
Okay.
back to you. Want to hide your porn usage from.
But does it really? Because as far as I know, they're like 3 companies deep that do the actual billing, and it appears on your credit card as something weird like Waffle House 3.0. And so,
You seem to have a lot of
Well,
experience
I
with
don't
that.
have personal experience.
no, I mean like as somebody who's something of an expert in credit card billing systems, I can tell you right now that it does not appear on your credit card statement. It's like one note. So they've solved that problem. Honey, why do you go to Waffle House every month?
Personal experience.
So yeah, I mean, it's a solved problem. It's
Okay.
you know, I don't think it adds anything.
Also, since our last podcast, there was the Ripple lawsuit. It was for really a tiny amount, but could set like a precedent for the future. So the guy said like, oh, I bought Ripple at like $3 or something like that, and now I lost $500 on it. So now I'm suing Ripple.
Is he suing for his material loss? That
Yes.
seems stupid.
Well, yeah, he sucks at trading. Maybe watch CNBC or something.
Yeah.
So
So it's soon CNBC.
yeah. So what are we going to do to fix it? Send Snoop Dogg to his house?
I don't know. I have no clue. But anyway, the interesting part is that it actually might influence the decision whether Ripple is a security or not.
Why would it influence that?
Well, because like
If they're responsible for the price, then
Yeah, if they're trying
yes,
to find centralization.
and it's like a central point of failure.
I mean, I guess given the amount of Ripple that they hold centrally, it's,
you know, like 60-70%.
Yeah. so you could argue, you could make a coherent argument that they can manipulate supply and demand sufficiently.
Well, not just that, they're pumping it too. So it's like one company with its own coin, and it's pretty exposed, right? I think they have a good chance.
What of being labeled as security?
Yeah.
Christian podcast is pretty good.
I've talked to some lawyers too. They think it's also security.
Who thinks Ripple is a security here?
Yeah, we know it's a scam.
25% of people think.
Yeah.
Okay, how many people think that Ethereum is a security? Okay.
5%, 10%.
Okay, that's like 5 people. Tone base is very public about it.
Tone thinks everything's a security.
Everything but Bitcoin
So
and Litecoin.
Monero is a security.
Thanks, Tone. I'll hit you up later.
that's actually all the agenda that we had. So now we can open up the room for questions. So what did you guys want to ask us?
We have a mic.
Oh yeah, actually
We don't.
okay, that's gonna be wrong.
We'll just repeat.
We'll repeat the question. Yeah.
We do have a
Go
mic.
ahead.
Yeah,
No, but it's not plugged into the.
Oh, right.
it's very fun to watch.
So it's a question for Charlie, which applies to Litecoin, but also other.
Why soda all time low?
Actually, no. It's more. It applies to you, but also in general to currencies that wanna replace fiat. So how do you plan to fight deflation? Because since you have a limited supply of currency, it creates a deflationary effect. And I spoke with Vitalik about it actually, and he agreed that currencies like Litecoin have that issue. So how are you going to fix it?
Okay, so the question is, how are you planning to fix the deflation problem?
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that it is a problem. So we'll see over time whether it's a problem. I mean, I am thinking about.
Actually, repeat the question for the live.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Pay attention. Pay attention, Tone.
Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin has the same problem, right?
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Well, that's what I say. It's not the problem. It's the solution.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a problem.
I'm of the opinion that that it's not that inflation is definitely not great, but the greater problem with traditional fiat currencies is that inflation is uncontrolled and uncontrollable because it's sort of governed by a central body and they can do whatever they want, and you can end up with scenarios like hyperinflation, as has happened in Botswana, in Zimbabwe and elsewhere. I think that being completely deflationary, we don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. It might lead to like a digital gold scenario, which is great for a store of value scenario, but maybe not so great for something that's meant to be a medium of exchange. I think that maybe something like a low amount of, very, very low amount of inflation might not be terrible, as long as the rules are set in advance and they're adhered to. The minute you go about trying to change those rules halfway through, then, well, we're back to bad money, unsound money.
But in terms of Litecoin, or Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin or whatever, how is that going to be fixed? If it's going to be fixed, if it does strive to replace fiat, then that should definitely be fixed. I believe, because if you have deflation, otherwise, like if you don't fix deflation, you're gonna be paying $1,000 for a bread, which is not good.
Okay, so just for the people watching on live streaming, so we're just saying again, how is it? He's asking again, how is it going to be fixed?
Or is it not?
Or is it not? So I mean, like, are you worried that somebody acquires? Let's say they buy $100 worth of Bitcoin today, and then when they go to buy bread tomorrow, because of price volatility, the bread has gone up in price?
No, so like, what happens with deflation is that since the amount of currency is limited, like it's a good store of value because the supply is capped, but it doesn't work well as a medium of exchange.
Yes.
Because otherwise, the price keeps going up. And,
The price keeps going down.
I think
yes.
I think your concern is that because of deflationary, the price will keep going up, so people won't want to spend money, right? They'll just keep it because
also
it's going
that,
to work more.
that's another problem.
Well, I think it's not going to be that bad because the price won't right now. Like price could be shooting up, but when things become stable, yes, the price might go up a little bit, but it won't be enough to encourage people not to spend.
I think in the long term, the prices will stabilize. I mean, this is a period of growth, and it's still very early. So if you look at the history of like precious metals being used as stores of value, we don't really know exactly how it was, but I'm pretty sure it's quite volatile in ancient history, right? But we're watching Bitcoin grow over like 9 years, so it's going to be volatile for the time being. But I think you can use Bitcoin as a unit of account now, like over Lightning. So things can be charged by Satoshi, fraction of Satoshi, or like services, nano services.
Next question.
Yeah.
So, kind of following up on that question. So, even if you like the kinds of monetary properties something like Bitcoin has, which I do, there is one thing that Bitcoin and especially a lot of the other currencies, but just kind of it's quite unevenly distributed. And so even if you think that all the kinds of properties that Bitcoin has are actually very desirable, it does seem like a problem that it's extremely unevenly distributed within society. How do you think that's going to play out in the future, especially because everybody that owns Bitcoin seems to just want to model?
Okay, so the question is about Bitcoin's uneven distribution and the uneven distribution amongst many digital currencies, and how you think that's going to play out.
Same as with everything. I mean, fiat is also unevenly distributed.
I actually had a podcast that asked the same question, and he really tried to get the answer, like, why don't you guys make this technology work so that it can bring equality to the world? But there's no really good way to do it, right? We can make something and give every one in the person 1 million coins of, but that's probably not going to have value, right?
Well, you can airdrop it to everyone, but always you always have smart people who are going to end up with more, and then dumb people are going to lose it or like throw it away or gamble it away or trade it.
Aurora Coin tried.
Yeah.
I think mining is like the best solution we have to this problem. Trying to distribute it as evenly as possible.
But I think the better thing to think about it, the better way to think about it is that technology will enable people to do more, to earn sound money, and that will bring about more equality in the world, I think. Like if you look at Venezuela, right, then people suffer because their currency is going to shit. But if they have sound money, then I think everyone's life will be better, even if it's not equally distributed. It's hard to have some technology where you have early adopters and still have it equally distributed.
Yeah, I think that the ecosystem has to grow. And in order for the ecosystem to grow, people need to take risks. And they need to be rewarded for those risks. And we can look at it and say, well, that's unfair that they were rewarded as early adopters. But ultimately, they took a much greater risk than somebody coming in a decade later and saying, "Oh, this is a cool technology. I want some too." So there's only so much that we can do to change the distribution. And as Whale Banda brought out, dumb people are going to lose money. You can't control that.
I know that you guys like to have a lot of fun sometimes and just, calling each other, one another, or everyone else in the world like scammers and stuff, right? And what I see happening is, especially like newcomers and definitely regulators, they're taking it seriously and they're getting confused. So while you guys are up there, could you like convene for a couple of minutes and come up with like a serious definition for scam so that the newcomers and CoinDesk and that they get it straight. They know that.
Okay, so the problem is the question is rather the usage of the word scam and the lack of a strict definition that we're adhering to, that anyone adheres to, which is tough because
everything's a scam.
Everything's a scam. I don't know. So
those 3 coins.
So we had a discussion like when we were going down the escalator the other day about scammers and what is a scam, and whether somebody that has good intentions but ends up being scammy in their behavior, are they a scammer? Or they not? And the thing that occurred to me was like with Mt. Gox, right? That seems to be less of a, like Mark Carpellas was a bad person who set out to scam people, and more of like he became an accidental scammer due to incompetence, or that everything just got away from him and it was just too much.
I think the definition of scam is more clear, right? Like there has to be some intention and some harm. Intention to do something.
I don't know though. I mean, like if you end up doing a great deal of harm,
that's called negligence.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same ring to it though. There are so many ICO negligent.
Okay, so then it goes back to this thing. Like you could be dumb and lose your coins, right? But you could be dumb and not understand something and try to sell something to someone. But that's probably still a scam, right? Probably still a scam. Yeah.
So
it's like
everything's a scam.
Trying to sell something
Well,
that's Bitcoin.
both
Is that a
ICO.
scam? It's trying to sell something else that's Bitcoin is scam.
Yes. Definitely. Not naming names.
No. You're right. It's an overused term. I don't like the fact that it's an overused term, and I don't like the fact that I often resort to using it when I often mean something else. But it's hard to find a term that is so all-encompassing.
Maybe we should have like different levels of scam.
Tier level.
Greg Wright,
No, he's a
Greg
fraud.
Wright, Roger Ver, for them.
We'll call it Will Penna's hierarchy of scams.
Yeah. Nice, I like that.
Okay, we'll get to work on that after.
So just on the interoperability side, it's obviously a big push towards like atomic swaps and things like that. What's the point of holding a smart contract token if I can just hold an error on that coin and then interact with the smart contract so I want to through that interoperability blockchain? What's the future point of holding Ethereum, for example? Why don't we need to interact with this blockchain?
Okay, so the questions around interoperability and what's the point in holding any particular currency if you could just move in and out of other things?
Well, he specifically asked Ethereum, so there isn't any.
What's the point of holding Ethereum in Bitcoin, like running an exchange? For
It's like
Ethereum?
just hold Bitcoin with an error.
And then just shift into it as you need.
Smart contract I want to use.
In my mind, there isn't really a reason to.
Yeah.
So I mean, people compare Ethereum Ether to gas, right? To fuel. So do you hold barrels of fuel or oil in your house?
Well, actually,
You don't, right? You exchange for it when you need it, so you don't have to speculate on the price of fuel. So I see that would happen in the future also, where you would have Bitcoin or Litecoin, and just if you need to power a smart contract, you will atomic swap to the fuel you need and spend it. Right? But only if you want to speculate on the price of fuel. Which you need.
It's a long run.
Yeah.
Not typically bullish outlook consistency.
I don't. Yeah, I tend to agree with Charlie. I don't think that holding something that is meant to be a gas or a transaction fee mechanism, and that's its only purpose. It seems silly to speculate on it. People speculate on anything, but I like in terms of like long-term viability as a speculative vehicle, that seems like a bad move. And I mean, like atomic swaps aren't the only thing that's being done in that space. There are lots of projects that are trying to provide incredible amounts of interoperability and decentralize everything, decentralize shapeshift, all of that. And it's eventually, I think that at least until everything crashes and we're left with a couple of things standing, people are going to be able to move in and out effortlessly from one token to another.
One thing is that someone could be mining and they mine a certain coin because they have certain hardware or they buy certain hardware and they want to swap.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
What are your thoughts on Bitcoin Cash potentially, if it ever gets a higher market cap than Bitcoin? Do you think a lot of people would then consider that to be Bitcoin? And what's the best determination of how to define the real Bitcoin?
Yeah, so the question is, what will define the real Bitcoin if Bitcoin Cash's market price?
In the unlikely scenario.
In the unlikely scenario that Bitcoin Cash's market cap goes above Bitcoin. The flipping.
Lots of coins have gone above Bitcoin briefly, right?
Yeah.
And people understand, well, hopefully people understand that market cap is a really bad indicator of the value of the coin or authenticity of a coin because it's so easy to manipulate. Like anything can issue 1 billion tokens and sell one for $1 and have a $1 billion market cap.
Yeah, but even with like Bcash, for example, a lot of the initial coins were actually mined, so there's still like everything that lost on Bitcoin got lost on Bcash, and a lot of people didn't even claim their Bcash yet. So the total amount of coins actually available is smaller. So we should also like take that into account.
Look, I mean, in that particular scenario,
think about how other people will think though.
Yeah.
What the real Bitcoin.
I think it's an optics thing. It's an optics problem if that happens. Like, let's be honest. People are confused enough as it is. They read like articles on CoinDesk and then they read stuff on Bitcoin.com and the Bitcoin Twitter account. They don't know what to believe. And if that happens and everyone's writing about like this is clearly the real Bitcoin, it's going to become a very, very confusing place for anyone who's a newcomer.
Well, yeah, I think we need a better set of tools to evaluate. Like we should have a ranking site that looks at, well, first of all, normalizes the units, so there's no unit bias, right? So you can see if there were 21 million ripples, you can see there's $2,000 a ripple, whatever you call it, and then Cardano would be like $300. That would be good. And if you could take into account market depth, liquidity, how many commits are being made. It is software, right? Yeah. So you should definitely look at how much activity there is on GitHub, or time since last commit, right? Some of these projects have like no commits for months.
Yeah, CoinGecko tries to do about it.
But all those things you can fake. I mean, I can fake commits.
Yeah, but still, we're talking about getting better, right? Getting better.
In the end, like the community will decide what's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I mean, if in the unlikely event that Bitcoin Cash does become like the most popular digital currency, that people would just call it Bitcoin, and that's fine. That could happen. I mean, it's like one example is if like let's say Bitcoin is a bike and Bitcoin Cash is a tricycle. For some reason, like tricycle becomes so popular that everyone's using it to bicycles, and then people start calling that bike. Sure.
But I think ultimately everyone knows what they want, right? Like you won't just
Bitcoin Cash tricycle is coming.
I don't think people will just decide, okay, that has a bigger market cap. I'm going to sell this and buy that. People will still look at it and think, well, which one do I want? Do I want this controlled coin or a decentralized coin?
Yeah, I also think like, I mean, I've heard lots of arguments for, you asked the question, what makes a particular thing Bitcoin? And I've heard arguments like the thing with the greatest cumulative proof of work difficulty or the greatest hash rate or whatever. But that doesn't really work in all cases. Like, take Monero, for example, when the network upgrade occurred that made all the ASICs like stop working, then they carried on mining whatever, Electronium or whatever. So now, is that suddenly the real Monero?
Yeah.
But you
It's not fluffy Bitcoin's vision. So.
It's not.
But yeah, but you can also say like, okay, SHA-256, but then if as an algorithm, and then But then you could also say if it has a higher market cap, it's going to incentivize more miners to mine it, and overall we'll have more hash rate. Because I think that the market cap determines a lot of things, like how many miners will support.
So for the people streaming, we're just going back to the market cap thing and saying if the market cap's higher, then miners will mine more.
Considering the same
Yeah.
number of coins.
So I mean, are we talking? I mean, in this unlikely event that happens and more miners are mining Bitcoin Cash, and Roger stands up and says Bitcoin Cash is not truly the real Bitcoin. I mean, is that an unlikely thing that could happen? Sure.
But there have been several points in time where it has been more profitable to mine Bcash, and people don't change, right? That should have been the point of inflection, but it's not because people don't want to mine it.
Yeah, I also think there's a lot of ideologically motivated miners, and we shouldn't forget them.
Let's take a question from the guy in the BTFD t-shirt.
Yeah, so say that scenario happens, what do you call Bitcoin?
Okay, so if that scenario happens, what do we call Bitcoin?
Legacy Bitcoin.
Yeah, legacy Bitcoin. Classic. I don't know.
Bitcoin 4?
I'm pretty sure that's just software.
Blockstream Core. No, obviously.
That's trademark.
Yeah,
That's Bitcoin segment.
Bitcoin segment. Bitcoin 1x.
Okay, let's go more. Mr. Hayes.
Actually, a serious question. It would be great if everybody on the panel can answer it. Which coin is more centralized, Litecoin or Monero?
Ooh, good question.
Question is, which coin is more
I
centralized?
think my opinion.
Which coin is more centralized, Litecoin or Monero?
Yeah, I think Litecoin. Sorry.
Do we have Litecoin?
Who are you saying sorry?
Because
I was vying for that position.
Pony has this malware everywhere. It's like mining on people's phones and stuff.
Yeah.
well, okay. Let's answer this seriously. So you have the Litecoin Foundation, which is already like a centralized point. You have Charlie Lee. So he doesn't own any Litecoin anymore, apparently. Also, all the miners are coming from, almost all from Bitmain, I think.
No, it's like Bitmain and
Yeah.
Okay, there's fewer pools. There's fewer.
Fewer rules, yeah.
then Monero.
I don't know. I said, well, I don't fact check that.
So what do you say, Charlie?
It is a tough question. I think
Your fans are listening.
I think just the fact that I'm around, I'm kind of like a centralizing figure. Makes probably Litecoin in terms of like the community more centralized.
Yeah.
You know what? Monero, no one likes
Do you still plan on selling all of your Litecoin?
Do you still plan on selling on
No, or getting rid of developing on top of it once it hits the next all-time high, as you once done.
The question is, will Charlie get rid of the rest of your
Well,
life?
stop developing for Litecoin.
Stop developing.
Well, when I
Will
stopped
Charlie
developing,
stop developing?
well, I stopped developing for Litecoin. I think eventually I will. So Litecoin will last hundreds of years. My lifetime is limited, so you do the math.
Until the singularity.
Everything eventually goes to zero.
Well, actually, one thing that's how go up, and what is actually quite interesting is the centralized, it's the central point of failure, which is sort of Charlie in this case. But I saw a tweet yesterday, like a couple of days ago, by Kevin Pham. You guys know him as like a crazy Bitcoin maximalist. He was saying the same thing about Ethereum. Obviously, that in that case it's Vitalik. And Vitalik was then replying like, "Is that a death threat?" Blah blah blah.
Oh, death threat tweets.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, that was hilarious.
But we see that now with a lot of coins, like for example Zcash and Suko. Although in Zcash case maybe Suko dies and actually Zcash goes up. I don't know.
That's brutal. Sucker punch.
I don't.
No, but I mean it's a serious issue.
I don't think Litecoin will really hurt that much if I'm not. So
Because he doesn't do anything.
Exactly.
No, but you have a big one influential because you have so many followers. So every time you tweet about Litecoin.
I think the biggest issue is that you get labeled as the creator, which you are.
You're the creator of Monero.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You're that.
Thankful for today.
Yeah, you just like came back as a carpenter. Yeah.
Hi, I'm thankful for. Sorry, Fluffy Brody. My bad. But it's,
You are.
So not.
No, but I seriously think it's a big issue with the cryptocurrencies now, especially if you want to be decentralized. That's one of the main advantages of Bitcoin that Satoshi left. I mean, yeah.
I think I've seen an argument that's been made, which is kind of a fair argument, that like lightning doesn't strike twice, and that Bitcoin, how Bitcoin got to where it is, that process of having somebody create something that's truly unique and then like have a whole bunch of it and disappear is not something that's going to be repeated. And I think that's a fair argument to make, that maybe Bitcoin is the only thing that can ever possibly get to that point, and everything else is just a weak attempt at going from centralization to decentralization.
So the only criticism for Bitcoin is that Satoshi potentially has Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that is.
And we have no way of knowing if he destroyed
it
the
does
piece.
or doesn't.
We have no way to know.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take more questions.
Yeah,
James.
I just want to say, as a non-technical person, it took me a long time to sort of see through the bullshit and really understand why increasing block size was a long-term bad thing. And I just wanted to ask, like, in your opinions, what are the most dangerous factors about, increasing block size to support more throughput, and kind of put that out there?
Okay. So what are the most dangerous factors about increasing block size as a way of scaling?
Overpopulation.
No one really knows like how big of a block size does it really start affecting decentralization, right? We just know that if you keep increasing, you can't just keep increasing it forever. So you keep increasing it, eventually people won't be able to run a node.
It's not just that, you won't be able to synchronize.
You won't be able to synchronize, you won't be able to run a node. It's just too much resource intensive. So then nodes drop off, and then it becomes centralized, and it's easy for governments or anyone to attack and coerce the network. So is 1 megabyte the right answer? Is 2 megabytes okay? I mean, Litecoin is effectively 4 megabytes, so I think 4 megabytes is okay. But like, if you can just keep increasing 332 right now, like Bitcoin Cash, for example, is 332, and they're letting people like put all sorts of crap in it, right? Things that don't really need censorship resistance. So you have like all this like random tweets and stuff shoved into a blockchain that everyone for the rest of the time have to vote. It just doesn't make any sense, because decentralization is resource intensive. It's just by definition. So eventually people won't be able to run Bitcoin Cash nodes, and by then it'll be too late. The blockchain will be too big.
I like the Paul Stort's I like the Paul Stort's CONOP acronym, and CONOP is cost of node options. So how expensive is it for you as an individual to run a node? And it doesn't just mean like what the hardware and the bandwidth requirements, but also as a non-technical person, what are the things that you need to overcome to understand why you want to run a node, the software that you've got to download, all of that. And the higher the cost of node option is, the higher the CONOP is, the fewer people that need to run nodes, the people that are in jurisdictions where they need to run nodes or situations where they need to run nodes, they won't be running nodes because CONOP is too high. And it's not a metric that you can, it's not an objective metric. You can't say, yes, CONOP, and we're trying to lower it or increase it. It's a metric that's for you. It's your own, what is CONOP to you? And then you can maybe think about what CONOP is to the next person and what CONOP is to somebody that really needs it. And increasing block size is a very naive way of scaling, but it does damage to CONOP. It just raises at CONOP massively to the point where the people that desperately need it are locked out of being able to run a node.
Yeah, like right now, it's near impossible to run a full Ethereum node, right? Who runs a full Ethereum node in this room? One person. Thank you for keeping Ethereum decentralized.
I think the other side of that question is,
Can I have my Dow coins back?
It's not just about should we and what size. It's also about how we do it. I don't think there's a really good way to do it without splits. So that doesn't seem to be factored into a lot of the discussion. It's like, should we? But we need to look at how too. And there's a lot of research being done there. But since the debate ended, I think it's tapered off a bit, and people are more focused on Lightning at this stage. But sometime down the road, that research has to happen. You need to look at how.
So in the same thread, is it possible to compare the technical legitimacy of different projects to each other? And could that be a determinant of what is the true Bitcoin?
So is it possible to compare the technical legitimacy of projects? So I have an interesting theory on this that you could use a combination of factors to view technical legitimacy. You could take a look at, like, obviously basic things like number of contributors and so on. But then also, what about the research that's being done on it? You know, like what cryptographers and academics are actually pushing out papers about that. And you know, you take something like Verge. I mean, how many papers have been published on Verge? You know, and that is a sign of a lack of technical legitimacy, because it's disinteresting to researchers. And I think that researchers are a reasonably good oracle in terms of finding what is interesting, and take from a technical perspective.
The other problem is too that a lot of people don't want to research other coins or forks or whatever, right? So I think for a long time, a lot of people knew emergent consensus would not work, but it's not like we should research that and see if it could work. It's just like, that's so stupid, it could never work.
Yeah.
And then someone actually, Ren Zhang and some other guy, actually did the research and published a paper and says this doesn't work. But it's like, are you going to do that research for every single dumb idea? I don't think so.
Yeah. Actually, I just noticed that our audio really sucks. No one can follow us on the live stream.
Uh-oh. Sorry, guys.
Are we recording? Yeah. So we can upload later. Okay.
We'll fix it in post.
We'll have to watch it again. Yeah. Yo. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so if Bitcoin is to become like the next gold or the next global reserve currency or whatever it is that we want it to become, clearly there's a need for there to be much more liquidity around its order books, right? Now, in traditional markets, you know, stocks, bonds, whatever, the market makers who have brought liquidity to the table have been institutions, right? And so with that in mind, do we need to bring on institutions on board in order to make Bitcoin a success?
I don't know if we need to bring.
So
the question is, yeah. So if Bitcoin is going to be like a new reserve currency or digital gold or something, do we need to bring on more institutions into the fold? I think they'll come when it's time. It's just a matter of time and demand. We're seeing a lot more OTC demand. It's been increasing steadily, and I think it's just a matter of time for the old school people to just come in, family offices, and what's retirement savings plans.
Yeah,
coming.
What I've been hearing is that like a lot of institutions waiting and for a proper exchange that actually serves institutions. So I think it's coming,
Yeah, like
whether we want it or not.
Coinbase announced today that they're doing a whole suite of tools for institutional investors.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so it's coming.
Okay, one more. Yeah, we already had you. So.
Yeah. Talk to us later.
How do you think you could stop people falling prey to the cash propaganda to get confused with the ones and who might stop the whose responsibility might be to?
So the question is, how do we stop people from posting propaganda about Bitcoins falling for propaganda? And the answer is you. You're responsible. Seriously.
I think I'm there. What's a trademark of Bitcoin? What was a trademark? Because that would solve it.
You can't leverage trademarks to solve this. That's,
yeah.
It's up to the community to call out the bullshit.
Yeah. So it's all of us basically.
Yeah. I think the problem is that traditionally speaking, at least more recently, people get attacked when they present an opinion, and they say, well, that's clearly garbage for the following reasons, and you're calling out whatever, Bitcoin Cash or like some other scam, and then like all of the bag holders pile on. They're like, oh, that's FUD. How dare you say that about my bags that I'm holding? And that's really tough to deal with, because it can be demoralizing to somebody who, like the four of us, are happy to speak about things in a negative light when they are clearly problematic. And I think that sock puppets are cheap, and there's not a quick solution to that. And people just need to be encouraged to be brave and to be bold and to speak out against scammers, because that's the only way we're going to have enough volume in the room for the newcomers to know what is a scam or a poorly designed product or a whatever negligent riser.
Well, another problem here is that a lot of people just trying to be nice with each other. Like, oh, I'm not going to call him out because maybe his company can do something with my company later on, or stuff like that. And it's one of the advantages of being unemployed trader. I can just call out whatever I want, and that's it.
You're unemployed?
Well, I'm a trader.
Do you want a job?
Is a Monero Enterprise Alliance hiring?
I'm looking for a new assistant to get rid of my old one.
This one?
Come on. But I think best way to put it is saying that Matt Corallo, Blue Matt said. He said Bitcoin is anti-fragile, but we give it that anti-fragility. So it's basically saying everyone has to do their part, right? If everyone's silent, then they're going to have a loud voice. And the comforting thing that I see is that when @Bitcoin is posting their propaganda, all the replies are like, don't say this, it's a scam or whatever. People know, right? And it's not working. So
the sad part is the other camp thinks that all these replies are soft movements.
Eventually, like Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash is just going to be like 2 AI bots on
and then the best bot wins.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about the developers that Bcash has, then I already know who's going to win anyway.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks
so much for coming.
Thanks.
We have t-shirts at the back. There's like I think 200. We have a bunch of sizes.
Yeah.
Just don't mob them.
Form an orderly line.
Form an orderly line.
Can I get a picture with all 4 of you? Because you'll never be in the same spot ever again for this.
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'll take a picture with you.